It's good to have friends, isn't it? I'm sure each one of you has a group of friends who are really special to you. People you play with, tell your secrets to, the people that you trust to be there for you no matter what. But I wonder if any of you have had one of those horrible days when a best friend suddenly decides they don't want to be your best friend anymore. Maybe they don't even tell you why. They just disappear off the scene, and that's that. They're not there when you need them. It's really horrible when that happens. But you know something? That's exactly what happened to Jesus on the first Good Friday. When he was arrested by the soldiers, his disciples were so terrified that most of them just turned away and ran as fast as they could in the opposite direction. But one of them didn't run away, and that was Peter. Instead, he followed Jesus because he wanted to see what would happen next, and because he had made Jesus a promise that he would never ever leave him, whatever happened. Now, Jesus had warned him that actually he would. Before the cock crowed on Good Friday, Jesus told him, "You will have actually denied even knowing me 3 times." Peter denied that would ever happen, and I'm sure he really meant it. But then things got really difficult. People began recognizing Peter, and they began asking questions, and that really frightened him. First of all, a servant girl came up and said, "You're one of the disciples, aren't you?" "I'm not. What are you talking about?" Peter said. And then somebody else came up and said, "Wait a minute. I've seen you with that Jesus fellow." "What are you talking about?" Peter said. "I don't even know the man." And then somebody else came up and said, "I do recognize you. I recognize you by your accent. You're a Galilean. You're one of his friends." "I don't know what you're talking about," Peter said. And at that moment, the cock crowed, and Peter burst into bitter, bitter tears. So where did that leave Jesus? Wasn't there anyone left to support him? Was he going to be crucified all on his own, with everyone he'd loved and served nowhere to be seen? Well, no, that didn't happen, because his mother never left him. The women who'd followed him so faithfully for 3 years, they were there at the foot of the cross. The women who had supplied the food for him and followed him and probably done the washing as well. And John was there, John, his closest disciple. They were all there. They watched the nails being hammered into his hands and feet. They didn't turn away when he cried out in pain. They were there, where he could see them, where he could feel their love. And Jesus looked down from that cross at his mother and at John, his favourite disciple, and he said to his mother that from now on she must regard John as her son. And he said to John, from now on, this is your mother. There weren't many people who stayed with Jesus right to the bitter end, but those who did proved that no matter what, they were there for him, not just till he died, but long afterwards, looking out for each other. And you know what? That's the kind of love Jesus wants us to show to one another now, supporting each other no matter what happens, because love, in the most difficult of times, is love, and love will get us through everything.
Good Friday, the day that Jesus was crucified. He had his hands bound with rope, and we have some rope here. He was forced to carry a wooden cross, and we have some wood here. and he had nails bashed through his hands and his feet to hang him from the cross. We're going to make our own cross today using the rope or the string, the nails and the wood. The first thing we need to do is to mark out on the wood the corners of the shape of the cross. I usually start about 2/3 of the way up the wood and mark the points, a little square in the middle, and then the top of the cross, the foot of the cross, and each arm. So that you end up with something like that. You then need to put a nail in each of the marks where you've marked the corners. So we take a nail and we bash it in there, and so on, and we go right the way around, putting nails in each corner. And here's one that I've done earlier, where I've marked out and put in all the nails to make the shape of a cross. But it doesn't really look like a cross like that. What you need is either some string, or in my case I'm going to use some garden twine because it's a greenish colour. You can use whatever colour you like. The first thing you do is you make a knot at the end and slip the knot over one of the nails like that. And we then just follow the nails around and twist them around each one. I'm getting quite good at doing this, but it is a little bit fiddly. And there we are, we've gone right the way around. I will cut off and leave myself a reasonable length here, which I can tie to the first bit. Tie it quite tightly, and that should be okay. We'll snip off the ends. There we have our very simple cross. A cross that reminds us of the wood, the rope and the nails. You can, if you want, do it a different colour or a different shape, or fill in the bits in the middle by doing some crossways things. It's entirely up to you how you do it, but it's there as a reminder of what happened to Jesus on Good Friday.
We talked before about making handprints by putting painted hands on the paper. For these activities, you'll need a green hand, a hand-coloured hand, and an orange hand. First of all, we're going to use the green hand to show the plants growing in the garden. Imagine the fingers as stems and add flowers to the end of each one. You can either cut out flowers to stick on, paint them on, or you can draw them using crayons or felt tips. Or, as Alex has just shown, have a little bit more finger painting. The soldiers who came to arrest Jesus in the garden didn't know him. So they paid Jesus' friend Judas to show them who Jesus was. Our next picture is of a hand held out to accept the coins. You can either do what Alex is doing and stick coins onto your painted hand, or you can cut out some coin shapes out of paper to stick on, or again, if you're really keen on the painting bit, you can use your fingertip dipped in paint to make the coins. And they don't stick if you put them on paint. When Peter said that he didn't know Jesus, he heard a cockerel crow 3 times. We're going to use an orange hand to make a cockerel. The fingers are the feathers and the thumb is the head. You can paint or draw on the part on the top of its head, which is called a comb. You can add in a beak, and the feet, and then finally the tail, and your finishing touch is to draw on a wing.
Well, hey everybody, now we're going to make a cross today that we can hang in our window, and here's the template for that cross. Here I've got some greaseproof paper that you'll find in your pack, and the plan is that it will go on the top like this. Okay, so here's one I did earlier. We're going to put some glue on the greaseproof paper to make sure that it covers all the area that we're going to be putting our tissue paper on. And now I'm going to stick some tissue paper on all over the area that I've glued. This is very light see-through tissue paper, which again you'll find in your packs. We don't provide the glue, but we provide everything else. And you can stick it on so that the entire area that has been glued is covered in tissue paper. If you don't, it'll get to be a very sticky mess. Okay, and we're thinking about Jesus being hung on the cross on Good Friday. There you go. So we've stuck that on. Make sure it's all covered. The children should be able to do this on their own. And then, you see, we've just checked that it's covered. Yeah, I think we've got a couple of gaps there we need to just fill in. A couple at the bottom. It's quite a big space, bigger than you think. I think we've covered it all now. Then I'm going to put some glue on the cross all the way round. Make sure that you do this quite well so it sticks properly. All the way round. I'm just using PVA glue for this. Prick stick would work well as well, but it wouldn't stick quite as well as this does. And then we're going to put this over the greaseproof paper with the, there you go. There, now we've got an outline. Now we should leave this to dry because as you can see it's a little bit sticky. But in true Glue Peter style, here's one I did earlier. And as you can see, we have to cut around the edge to cut off the rest of the greaseproof paper so that we have the shape of a cross. And here we have a cross, a bit like a stained glass window. You can hang that in your window and the light will shine through it and remind you that Jesus died on the cross for you. And there's a heart in the middle to remind you that he died on the cross because he loved us.